All right, all right. It's been a while, but welcome back to another edition of True Story Bro. I'm your host, John Kraus, and I've got today a really cool guest. His name is Matt Rhoda, and he is all about faith, family, fitness, and fun. He's out of Lancaster, and it's probably called, you say it differently in PA, but I say
We do, yep.
Lancaster. He calls it something different. He's a Pennsylvania dude, a patriot, a
Yes,
great
sir.
guy, and he's a husband and he's got a couple girls. So we're just gonna
Yep.
jam out and just kind of chat about kind of what his journey's been through, from upbringing to where he's at now, and what journeys and what kind of things he's overcome, because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So without further ado, Matt, why don't you just give us a little bit of who you are and what you're about, and we'll just start there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, John. Definitely. So like you said, I kind of summarized my life in those four words: family, faith, fitness, and fun. Inside of each one of those words, there's obviously a lot of different dimensions to what each one of those means to me, but that pretty much sums it up, man. I love my family, very family oriented, faith driven, believe in the higher power and that bigger purpose type of stuff. Fitness is a big part of my life. So I call myself an endurance athlete. I like to run ultra marathons, lift weights, kind of do all that stuff. And then fun. I mean, to me, that's just what life's all about. Like, you got to have fun in your work. You got to have fun in relationships. You got to have fun just doing what you do. So I enjoy life. I'm sure we'll dig into it. I had a really good upbringing. Went off the beaten path, high school into college, made a ton of mistakes, got in trouble with the law. And then found my way back into the straight and narrow, healthy path once I met my wife 4 or 5 years ago, and she gave me the ultimatum of like,
That's a cool story
it's me
too.
or that. So yeah,
I
yep.
love
So we'll
that.
get into
I
that.
love that. I love that. So you're out in PA. What's cooking in Pennsylvania these days?
Oh man, not much. When I went to college, from what everyone else's perspective, when in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, it's Amish. So I went to
Yes. Okay.
college, and people are like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Lancaster, PA," and they're like, "Oh, so you're Amish?" I'm like, "No, I'm not Amish, but like,
Right.
you drive 20 minutes east, you get into the Amish world, and you'll pass horse and buggies, and even just driving down our streets occasionally, you'll see the horse and buggies." So
Nice.
that's one thing that people are always kind of like, that's real life, like that exists. I'm like, yeah, it definitely exists. But yeah, it's cold right now, middle of winter, so it's
Yeah.
it's not easy getting outside and doing the 45-minute workouts, 5-6 days a week, but you do
Yeah,
it.
man. Good for
Yeah.
you. Good for you. Yeah, it is cold. I'm up in Connecticut. So
Okay.
this morning I hit a 30-minute skate outside of my outdoor rink. So got my
Yep.
heart pumping in the cold, and tomorrow it's going to be even colder. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the lungs screaming a little bit at me.
I know. Yeah, I went for a run yesterday with my buddy. It was 30 degrees out. And we were like, it's kind of like summer right now.
Yeah.
Today was like 15, and last
Yeah.
week was like 7. So it was like
Oh
30.
yeah.
Like, this is nice.
Yeah,
So
I think tomorrow is going to be one of those single digit
yeah.
guys. I think. I
Yep.
think. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Amish. I never really experienced it, but my aunt moved way up to like upstate New York. It's on the border of Vermont, a little town called Granville, New York, and there's Amish up there. Like, there was
Yeah.
some
Yep.
dude in a horse and buggy going down their road. I'm like, that's great, because I've never been to your neck of the woods either, so I've never seen
Yep.
it, and it was just like, wow, that's
It's
really cool.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Yep.
cool. It's crazy. So, all right, so let's just get into it. So, again, the premise of my podcast is sharing, people's journeys, and you mentioned, you believe in a higher power. So do I. I know God is with us. I know God drives us. He's got the map. We just have to follow the map. We often get that tap on the shoulder, like, "Hey, I'm here." And throughout life, I believe that every one of us gets that tap on the shoulder, and sometimes we
Mhm.
listen, sometimes we don't. So why don't you said you had a really great upbringing. Why don't we start there? Like,
Yeah.
what was that all about? What was mom and dad like? What was high school,
Yep.
grade school, all that stuff?
Yeah. So we had the traditional, like, American family upbringing. Mom and dad loved each other. I have a brother, younger brother, two older sisters. So I had, three siblings. Went to a local private school, went to a Catholic high school. Dad was always at our sporting events. Mom was, always there to support us, family dinners around the dinner table every night. I really, like, now that I have a family of my own and I'm a dad, like, and back then I kind of appreciated, but you don't fully appreciate it as a kid. Like it's either that's normal or it's not normal. So for me, that was just, that's life. So like, I didn't really have a perspective of appreciation at that point, but now that I'm older and I see like, you know, the family in some ways disintegrating like in society, I'm like, thank God I was raised like that, because that gave me the foundation of now how I want to raise my family. So, you know, we average middle class family, like, you know, went on the vacation to the beach once a year and like did that kind of stuff. Didn't have excess money, but we always had enough. So I feel like I was super fortunate from that perspective.
Sure.
You know, I had friends who were going to Disney World all the time. I've never been to Disney World. Back then it was like, what, you get to go to Disney World? Like you're rich. And like, you know, I didn't really care. I was just like, that's kind of cool. But yeah. So that was like my general memories of growing up. And then in terms of like activities and stuff, I think kind of the premise of what my story is here on this podcast is I was always into sports. So from like second or third grade on, you know, I was the captain of our basketball team. I was a pitcher for our baseball team. I was always playing, like, you know, if I was in third grade, I was playing with the fourth and fifth graders. I was always on the traveling team. So I was just gifted naturally with like talent to play sports, baseball and basketball specifically.
Sure.
And I just love sports, like, you know, go to school, come home, throw the book bag in the driveway and like grab the basketball, shoot hoops with my buddies in the neighborhood.
Yeah, man. But that's how it was back then too, though.
Yep.
Like right now, I mean, kids, I mean, I've got 4 kids and, you know, yes, they play organized sports. Dude, I have a rink in the backyard and I have a whole entire plate. Like my dream backyard is in my backyard, right? Like you, and it seems like if you and I grew up in this backyard where I have a whole surface to play roller hockey in or basketball or soccer or whatever, like I would be there constantly. Every single day. There's no map, but it's not.
And your parents would be like, you have to come in. You'd be like, I'm not coming in. Like, it's not dark. Like you can't make me
put the
come
lights
in.
on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep. That's exactly how it was. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, I mean, our backyard was a nice big flat backyard. So we had the neighborhood football games where, like, you know, all the friends would come over and we'd, you know, flag football up and down. My dad was always out there tossing the football with us, home run derbies in the backyard. So just like everything was driven by sports. And I loved it. I thrived in it. It was a big part of my identity growing up, you know, grade school, especially, kind of like that was who I saw myself as, was like this not all-star, but kind of like at that age, an all-star athlete. And that was cool. And I loved it. And then I went to high school and had big dreams of, like, you know, varsity basketball. And once I got to high school, I kind of dropped baseball. It just wasn't really, I wanted to focus on basketball, and kind of that's where my real passion was. So freshman year, same story. Play basketball, starting point guard, you know, one of the top players on the team. Sophomore, end of freshman year, then I started to hang out with a group of friends who were into smoking weed. So I tried smoking weed for the first time end of freshman year that summer, and just enjoyed like the camaraderie of like hanging out with those guys. So that then became, you know, did it a few times that summer. School year rolls around. That's my new circle of friends. You know, it's kind of what we do on the weekends. So that became a part of my identity. And not surprisingly, basketball and sports became less and less of my identity. You know, and the coaches weren't stupid. The coaches knew what kids on the team were, you know, playing by the rules and doing all the right things. And then they knew which group of kids was, you know, we're not necessarily doing that. We're just kind of getting by with talent. So sophomore year, for the first time, I got benched pretty much, and like was not a starter. And that was kind of like, what the heck? Like, you gotta be kidding me. I actually quit halfway through my sophomore year because it was such a shock to my system. I think of just like, who are you to knock me off my high horse? Because I still think talent wise, I was one of the best on the team, but the coaches were just like, if you're not in it, like, I don't care if you have the most talent, like, you're not going to set the example that you party on the weekends and you still get the best of both worlds. Like, you choose A or B, and I was choosing B, unfortunately. So that was sophomore year. And then junior year, pretty much like, you know, I should have been playing varsity and I was riding the bench, barely saw any minutes. A sophomore, so a kid a year behind me got my starting spot. And I hated seeing that some younger kid like was coming up on me and taking my spot. Senior year, same thing, like drugs, you know, and it from sophomore to junior to senior year, the different types of drugs I was doing was expanding as well. So I was just getting more and more down that path, and less down the sports path, and just withdrawing from sports. And my passion was gone. My desire to become anything from that perspective was totally gone. And I kind of just like threw in the towel. I was just like, I'm just going to stay on the team because like like a big group of my friends are still into it. So like it was kind of like a social thing for me. But I certainly was not thriving in sports anymore. And it was like it was a shock is the best way to put it to my system, because my identity was and then it kind of got muddied water with the drugs, and then it just completely did a 180 and I went down a totally wrong path for the remainder of high school.
Yeah. So when you kind of started to go down that path, did like that take away like that drive and motivation of coming home and hitting the ball, hitting the hoop and all that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember too vividly, we would have Saturday morning practices. This was sophomore year specifically. And we would start the practice by running a 3-mile loop around a neighborhood near our high school. And the first couple of times we did that, I was just in the middle of the pack, back of the pack, not pushing myself. Like I'll get to the finish line, whatever. I'll hang out with a couple guys in the back. And I remember my coach being like, that's unacceptable. He's like, you're one of the more physically gifted people on the team. Like you need to be at the front of that group, leading that group. And even then I was just like, kind of like, nah, I'm good. Yeah. Like I don't care. So yeah, it totally completely killed that drive in me for sure. And it just was just like from here to here, and I couldn't turn my head around the other way, unfortunately.
Yeah. So did like at that point in time, like your mindset was just like, you know what, I'm fine. I could still play and have fun, hang out with my friends. And then I can also hang out with these dudes and have fun on the weekends. And I'm just living my life and leave me alone kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Got called a couple of times in high school by my parents. My mom, would find my stash and find my pieces and things like that. And I'd come home and we had blow up fights and stuff. And it was just kind of like, this is normal. Like, this is now my reality. And like, and I say it all the time, and I tell the story all the time. I had conversations with my mom because I put them through hell through high school for sure. And looking back, I'm like, how dare I have done that? But like at the time, it's like everybody's doing it, so whatever.
Right.
But I always told her, I was like, don't give up on me. I said that to her so many times, like, don't give up on me, because I don't know if this is the case, but I feel like this is the case. Some people get into drugs and they completely lose themselves in it. Like it's their identity and they don't even know other possibilities are out there. Right. Even though I was developing that identity and going down that path, I still knew I had other identities that were better for me, but I was just choosing this one specific identity. So that's why I would say to my mom, like, don't give up on me. Like, I know I'm being an idiot. I know I'm making a stupid mistake and a ton of mistakes. And I know I should stop, but like, I'm not stopping. So like, none of this makes sense. And like, why am I saying?
Right. Yeah.
But like, I had that like duality in my mind of like, you got to do better, but I don't want to do better, but I know I can do better, but I'm going to choose not to do better. So it was just like, high school was a very conflicting time for me. Like I felt I belonged, but I didn't belong. And this was my group, but that was my group. And here's who I was, but that's who I was. And it was just like,
they were both like pulling apart, like completely polar opposite groups, like as far as what the function and in your life were. I get it, man. Yeah. Like I was friends with a bunch of different people in high school, too, different groups, but I personally can't relate to being like the star athlete. I mean, I was a decent athlete. I was well-rounded. And I think that a lot of people who are listening, like I think when we first spoke a couple of weeks ago or last week, I think there's a lot of people that say that are in school right now and see that athlete that's just the all-star and always crushing it, and understanding like that it's not all like what you see on the surface isn't always what it really is. The all-star athlete isn't always that. There could be other things going on in their life and other things that are kind of tearing them apart and bringing them down. So, but let's move this on a little bit, because I know that you had mentioned, college was like probably your thing to your mom was like, it's going to be all right. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to kind of be something anyway, because you knew you had it in you to do it. So kind of take me down that road.
Yeah. So that was kind of the hope. Unfortunately, totally not what happened. College was even darker for me, really, from that perspective. Like more drugs, different types of drugs, was selling drugs, got caught selling drugs, got kicked out of college. I think that was my sophomore year. I got kicked out of college with like a week left in school. And I was just like, fuck it. Like, I'm just like, I'm going to work. I'm going to find a job, like screw college, screw everything. Like, I'm just done with it. And I remember the job that I had was painting mobile homes, like interiors of mobile homes. And I enjoy painting. I still do, like, when we need to paint stuff. So I didn't hate the work, but I just remember going to work for like a couple weeks and was just like, this can't be the rest of my life. Like,
Yeah.
and like, that's not to bash any like anyone
Right.
who has any kind of job, but like at
Of
that
course.
age, it was just like, this can't be the rest of my life. Like I have all these like possibilities and opportunities and potential. And like, this is all I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I remember sending an email to the dean of students and said basically to her, like, don't give up on me. Like, I know you probably can't let me back into school because I got caught and you kicked me out. But like, if there's an opportunity for you to let me back into school, like, please do so. I know I screwed up. I will learn my lesson. And I promise you, like, I'll achieve some good things in life and like, I'll make you proud that like you let me back in and I represented this college after that. And shockingly, she invited me back for a meeting and I sat down with her for a couple hours and chatted, and I was back in school, after that summer for my junior year. So I always say like and that's why I have faith. Like I think I have guardian angels that are like constantly like right by my side and behind me, like helping me get through life, because I made a lot of really bad choices, but things have always worked out for me. And, I've gotten in trouble. And so it's not like butterflies and rainbows 24/7,
Right.
365, but ultimately things have always worked out for me. So yeah, I mean, I kind of lied to her during that meeting, because then junior and senior year, same thing. Like I was partying, drugs. Like I learned my lesson, but I didn't change my lifestyle. I just
Right.
hoped I didn't get caught again, which I was fortunate enough not to.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So the running joke in our family is I have two older sisters, younger brother. They all went to college. It took them like 5 or 6 years to finish college, and like none of them got in trouble. And I'm like, yeah, like I sold drugs, got kicked out, and still finished in 4 years. And they're like, you're a dick. And I'm like, yeah, kind of like, but yeah, college was, and college had no sports at all. Like at that point, sports was dead to me. I knew I had no potential of playing sports in college because I completely lost that opportunity in high school with the decisions I was making. So yeah, college was a rough time too.
Yeah. I mean, and I want to go back because you had said like things always worked out for me. I mean, but you didn't give up on yourself. Like you could have easily been painting in those mobile homes and been like, I'll find another job, but I think that's, again, I think people nowadays need to understand they have to take initiative. Even when they screw up, sometimes you got to realize it was you that screwed up, own it and fix it. Do your best to fix it. Like what you did is you reached out to that dean that booted you and said, hey, listen, granted, it was kind of, you're trying to sell it a little bit, which you did clearly, but if you didn't, you cared enough to move forward with it, and you completed it. So that says something about you and who you are. And I think a lot of that comes down to like, you're like who God made you to be. Like he made you like this athlete, this kind of a guy that just knows how to work no matter what, knows how to work when like it seems like, Matt, when the shit hits the fan, you know how to address it. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't even know you that well, but it seems like that's what I'm getting from you is like, whenever things went down, you figured it out. I mean, I kind of relate to that a little bit too. Like I said, I wasn't like the all-star kind of high school athlete. I worked all through high school. I made money. That was I chose money. I chose, to drive a car and hang out with my buddies like that. But you know what? I'd always wanted to play in sports, and I'd always been good enough to hang, like skating and hockey with guys in a pond and, and playing baseball and all football. And I was always pretty good athletically, but I never applied myself. I never took it there. So in college, I'm like, they need bodies on the lacrosse team. So I was like, I got to buy a lacrosse stick. And I did. And thankfully, it was like the perfect storm because they needed bodies. I was a big body. I was pretty athletic. So I got a long stick for lacrosse and walked on to the lacrosse team. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like you and I are a lot alike, where it's like when we put our mind, it sounds like when we put our mind to something, it's going to get done. I mean, no matter
nothing
what.
Nothing gets in the way. Yep.
Yeah. But obviously, you've gone through all these things, and your faith probably got you through quite a bit of it here and there, even though you probably didn't lean on it that much at the time.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah.
And to your point too, about that initiative and stuff, and anyone listening who's in any similar situation where they're like, I know I need to, but I'm not going to, or I should, but I won't. I forget exactly how many people, but I had more than a handful of people tell me when I was making the decision to write that letter to the dean of students, they're like, you're an idiot. Like, there's no way they're going to let you back in. Like, you got caught selling drugs on campus and they kicked you out. Like, there's 0% chance you're getting back in. Like, they expel kids for like getting caught with beer. Like, you were gone.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that and being like, they might be right. But then that's just how I'm wired. I'm like, maybe they're wrong, or like maybe I'll be the exception. And like,
Right.
sure enough, if you take that chance and roll the dice on yourself and believe in yourself enough and sell it to a certain extent, hopefully,
Right.
it's a more honest sale than I made back then. Things can work out in your favor. You
Sure.
you have to grab the life and bulls by the horn and persevere and push through the obstacles.
Yeah, I think when people, you're gonna through life, you're gonna encounter challenges. No matter how perfect
Yep.
your life is or how bad your life is, you're gonna have challenges. And it's really, you have to look inside and say, all right, what can I do? And I think there's a lot of people, especially in today's day and age, are good at pointing the finger. I'm in this situation because this, and this, and they never internalize, say, listen, I have the strength and the power and the fortitude to change my situation.
Yep.
So what can I do to change the outcome of this situation? And then just try.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal, especially today, that I think a lot of people get stuck with is, I mean, there's a lot of people that are all doom and gloom about, about government, about all this stuff. But you know what? All the crap that's going on in the world, it really doesn't affect you on a day-to-day basis.
What can you control? Yeah.
It doesn't affect you. Who the president is doesn't affect what I do on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, I'm not really happy with who the president is because I think he's not doing a good job. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to, does it really affect me on a day-to-day basis? Like, it doesn't, I mean, there are big picture things that could affect a lot of people with policy and all that, of course. But, like, it just comes down to when it hits the fan, you've just got to figure out how to overcome it, period. Whatever's in your strength and your power and your resources. And you totally get that. So tell me, all right, so went through college, sold the dean, gets through college, still kind of on that same path, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Then what happens?
Yeah. So my goal in college last 2 years, and then my major, and then kind of my minor my whole plan was to become an attorney. Like you watch Law and Order and all those shows growing up, and you're like, yeah, I could be in the courtroom and demand respect. And like, people like think, oh, he's successful and I drive the nice car. So that's the vision I had sold for myself through college and kind of approaching the end of college. My buddy after high school went out to San Diego to go to San Diego State University. Never even thought of going to California. Like, I just had my vision of like, here's who I am, here's who I'm going to be. I won a poker game the beginning of the summer after I graduated college, won like $350 or $380. I was like, I could buy a plane ticket to go visit my friend in California. Like, that'll be cool. Like, because without that, I was not able to afford a plane ticket to California. So bought a plane ticket, went out to California. Loved it. Loved every bit of it. Like, stepped out in like the terminal and like sun was shining and everybody was happy, smiling. How are you? I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I love this place. I spent a week with him. It was just like, I could see myself living out here. So I went home and was kind of indecisive about it. I took the LSAT to see if I could get into law school, because that was my goal. And I didn't study for it. I didn't prepare. It was just kind of like, I'm always like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And like, I bombed my lowest score in the class. So I was like, that's not meant to be. So I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm going to move out to California and just like explore, like see what life's all about. And she sat me on the end of her bed and she was like, Matt, don't do it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do it. She's like, please don't do it. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. Like, I made my mind up. I'm going to California. I'm going to work this summer, save some money, and I'm heading out. And she said, you're either going to end up dead or in jail. And I was like, cool. Like, thanks for the vote of confidence. Like, I'll check you later. Like, I'm going to go figure it out. But to her, like, her defense, the last 8 years kind of set the stage for that being a very fair comment and assessment of where my future was headed. So I didn't really take it personally. I was like, she could be right. Like, she might be right. Like, I hope she's not right, but like, she has every right to say that. So I worked, I saved, I think $2,000 or $1,800 that summer. Packed up my car, drove out to California with my buddy, smoked weed across the country, got pulled over for my dumbass friend not putting a turn signal on. And I was like, here we go. It was New Mexico. I was like, we're going to get arrested like before I even get to California. And like, luckily, by the grace of God, like, he didn't smell anything in the car, didn't ask us to get out of the car, did his thing, wrote us a ticket, and we were on our way. And I was like, oh man, like, dodge that bullet. But I lived out there for 5 years. First 2 years, I worked at a student loan consolidation center, just punching loans into a computer over and over and over again. then they laid us off because they got bought by another company and got rid of the workforce. And I answered it, that, like, again, gift from God. I'm glad that happened. They gave us 2 months severance, and I decided I was going to try freelance. So I answered some guy's ad on Craigslist.
Yeah.
To write, like, be a writer. And I've always loved to write. So I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. So I met him, and he was a owner of an SEO company, worked out of his bedroom apartment, very small outfit at the time, but I was kind of like number 2 in command. So I learned sales, SEO, marketing, strategy, business operations, pretty much like everything to run a business. And it totally sparked the entrepreneur bug in me. And I was like, I'm never going back to corporate America. Like this is my path. Like, this is what I'm going to be.
That's crazy.
So I worked with him for like 2.5 years, learned a ton. And then I just got homesick. I was like, my sister had a kid, was having her second kid. I was kind of like the absent uncle. Missed being around my family just in general. So I called my brother and I was like, hey, if I move home, and he was just graduating college with a degree in marketing and business management. I was like, if I move home, do you want to start a business together? And he was like, I would love to. Like, I don't have to look for a job. Yeah. So I was like, all right, like, I'm coming home. We're going to start an SEO company. So that was 2010. I moved back, and we started a business together, and we're still in business together, and we're growing year after year. But even at the time when I moved back, 95% of the drugs that I was doing was out of my life, but I was still smoking weed like all day, every day. First couple of years of being in business, smoking weed all day, every day. And that still remained a big part of my identity, even though we were running a successful business. It was just like, that's what I did. I would wake up, smoke, hang out, smoke, go to bed, smoke, wake up, rinse, repeat over and over and over again.
And in this business, this is the business you currently also still have right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Roto Marketing.
That's cool. So Roto Marketing, look them up. Yeah.
Right.
But there's more to come though. I've talked about. So, all right. So you're back home, you're crushing business. You're still in that same kind of, again, I think it all keeps going back to just what you were built with, I mean, you have the fortitude to say, listen, if I want it, I'm going to work hard to get it, and you just had to make up your own mind like that you wanted it. Right. I mean, that's really in every stage of your life. I mean, whether or not you want, like, not everyone has that ability, to just flick the switch and say, I'm going to do it. Actually, they probably have it within themselves, but they don't realize it,
They nurture it.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're home now. You got the business up and running. What's next? I know that, you said you're still in that same life, smoking and doing your thing. So it gets better. Folks.
So business for the first couple of years was good enough. Like, we were able to pay ourselves, and that was my full-time income, and we had a certain level of success, but I was never really that focused on succeeding because I was distracted with hanging out with friends and doing drugs. So, in 2000, I should know this exact date, was 22, like 2015, 17, whatever it is. So when I came back, I had a girlfriend in San Diego for 8 years. We broke up. I came back to Pennsylvania. She stayed there. And when I came back, I was like, I don't want to date anybody for a while. Like, I just want to, like, take some time to myself, like, get my feet on the ground, figure out myself. And then eventually I can, like, look for a relationship. So I did that for like a year and a half. And then reached out to my sister the one night. I was just like, I think I want to, like, start dating or, like, meet somebody, like, just kind of open that door up again. It's like, do you know anybody or have any friends of any friends? And she was like, oh, let me ask around. So she reached out to a family friend that we both knew growing up. And she was good friends with a teacher that she taught with. And, my age, a little bit younger, like, I guess she's 6 years younger, but at the time, like, what difference does that make? But she reached out, she's like, like, I have a friend, Helen, like, she's super sweet. She's also kind of like dating and trying to find someone. She's like, they should meet. So they introduced us via text messages or via phone number. So I started texting Helen, one evening, and we texted that night and the next day. And I think a couple of days later, we had a blind date at an ice cream shop. We hit it off, but she would say she left that first date scared shitless because I'm an open book. And, like, I actually wrote a book about how, like, all the stuff that we're talking about, and I have no problem. I have no problem sharing it. Like,
that's cool.
So first date, like, I never really dated, so I guess I don't know etiquette. So I was just like unloading on her of, like, you know, she's telling me about all this sweet stuff about her and like butterflies and rainbows. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been arrested and like sold drugs. And like, you know, she left that date and I'm like, this is great. Like, you know, she could be the one. And she left that date and reached out to her friend who connected us. And she was like, Leslie, what were you thinking? Like, do you know his past? Like, do you know what, because my wife is like straight as an arrow, like never got in trouble, like plays by all the rules. So total opposite of who I was back then. And she was like, and thank God that like Leslie, our connecting friend, was like, yeah, but like that's his past. And she kind of like talked her off the ledge and was like, you know, if you want to continue to date him, like you're gonna have to just accept that fact. Like you can't change the past. Like if you think he's a good guy today and like you can see a future with him, like give that a chance and just let that go. So they kind of like talked me up enough that she gave me another chance. So we dated for texted all the time, dated for like 2 or 3 months, and we were engaged in month 3 or 4 of knowing each other. It was just one of those things that I was like, I could tell like this is the one, like this is what I want to build my life with. So yeah, we got engaged 3 or 4 months after knowing each other, got married a year and a half after that, had a kid a year after that. So it just flew by. But I think
you got to stop. You got to back it up.
No, yeah. So it was, I think, date like 3 or 4. So date 1, she knew everything about what I used to do. Date 3 or 4, it came up in conversation that I was still smoking weed. And like, I wasn't doing anything else, but like weed was still part of my life. And because she's a teacher and just, you know, she's the pure person that she is, she was just like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, didn't you know, like through our first conversation, like our first blind date, like, yeah, it's still part of what I do. And she was like, so like you have it like in the car, like around me sometimes. And I was like, yeah, like I'm not smoking it with you, but like it's around. And she's like, no, that's like pretty much like that's unacceptable. Like I'm not putting my career on the line. Like I don't want to be with somebody that does that. And like she basically said to me that night in that moment, like it's me or drugs, like you have to choose. And like it's not let me know in a week. It's like make a decision now and tell me, because I'm not going to continue to waste my time with you. And because I knew she was the one, as you say, it was such an easy decision for me to make. So I told her, I was like, all right, it's you, and like I'm done. And I went home after that date, called my cousin on the way home, and I was like, I got a bag of weed with me. If you want it, it's yours. If not, I'm going to throw it out. Cause like I told my girlfriend I'm going to get rid of it. And she was like, sure, I'll take it. So I went and gave that bag of weed to her, and haven't smoked weed since then. And just like the rest is history. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. So you had mentioned you have a book.
Yes.
What's the name of the book?
It's How to Take Down Goliath and Unleash Your Inner Hero.
All right, dude. I'm going to get that from you. I'm going to post that in the notes so people can get it. That's cool. So yeah, so you guys got to check that out and read that book, buy that book from Matt. I'm sure it gets into the weeds a little bit more too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it does.
That's awesome. So you've got a couple kids now. Everything, you know, you got married, kids. Now where are you at?
Business is thriving. Yeah, I adore being a dad. I adore my children. I love being a husband. I just like, and if you ask my mom, she says it sometimes. She's like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago if you'd be married with kids, she'd be like, no way I would have guessed it. And I'm like, again, fair enough, and probably neither would I. Like, because it 5 years ago or 6 at this point, 6 or 7 years ago, like I was still like, who am I? What's my purpose here? What am I doing? Like, and I really never saw myself getting married or having kids. Like at the time, it just didn't seem like the vision for my life. But like by the grace of God and like the stars aligning for me, I met Helen and she gave me the ultimatum, and it was just like click. Like, okay,
there we go.
Time to change my path and trying to like, you know, serve my purpose on this earth and, you know, do what I was meant to do. And yeah, I wake up every day, like just happy, like it's peaceful and happy. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Man, I'm pumped. Anything else you want to share? I know that you've got some things in the works, business wise. I mean, I don't really know if that's kind of coming up and coming, like what's going on.
Yeah, so Roto Marketing, you know, that's our core business. It provides our livelihoods. You know, we work with small and medium-sized business owners who need a digital presence and don't want to do it themselves. So we manage all their stuff for them. As of, I guess, like 3 weeks ago, we launched another business, or about to launch it. It's in the works. It's called madeoutofmetal.com. And we actually just put up a coming soon page on the web. So if you would go to madeoutofmetal.com, you would see that. And if you want to submit your email, we'll like notify people of when we're going to launch. We're expecting to launch that early March. But that's basically like metal decor, like cool like monograms, like cool silhouettes of deer in the wilderness for like cabin, like pretty much anything you can imagine artwork that's one dimensional.
Yep.
We're cutting it out of metal and making it for people. So we'll have standard pieces that we sell that are kind of like our popular pieces, but then we can also customize anything. So if you would reach out and you're like, I want a bear growling at a little chicken running like super random, like we could do that, like whatever we take your vision, create the graphic, and then cut it into metal. So we're super excited about that, because I've always said I love my marketing business, but I feel like helping other businesses grow and thrive is rewarding, but I've always wanted my own personal product that I could grow and thrive with my skill set. So for years I've searched for what that could be, and I feel like we finally found it. So I'm like super excited to start putting my marketing efforts and like my know-how behind something that I own.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, so I'm going to get all your different social media links and all that from you. I'm going to post those in the notes. I'm sure people can find you on Facebook, LinkedIn, all that stuff, and Instagram. Okay, cool.
Yep, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Yep.
All right, I'll get all that information. I'll put it in the show notes. If you had one message for the viewers and the listeners, I should say, of like that one message that you could provide, that one, maybe it's that one thing that you learned through life. What would that be?
As simple as it is, keep the faith. Like I've just always, like we kind of alluded to, I've made mistakes, so I've been pushed back because of those mistakes. Life kicks you unfairly many, many times. As long as like your purpose is pure and like you're here to do something good, keep the faith that you'll get through that challenging time, because that's always been what I hang my hat on. And even now, like, we make decent money, we make good money, but like, you're in the same circles as I am. And like, there's certain people that are making way more money than I make. And I'm like, I'm almost 40. Like, why am I not making great money like that? And still like a little financially nervous about my future. But through everything else, like I keep the faith. Like if you would ask me, do you think the future is bright? The future is always bright when I close my eyes. And like, how am I going to get there? I don't know, like day by day, making the right decisions and like, brick by brick. But no matter what life throws at you, keep the faith that if you do the right thing and you're a good human being and doing the right things for the right reasons, things will work out for you.
That's right, man. I love it. Yeah. I've got this shirt that says, keep moving forward. That's all it says in the front. And on the back, it says basically what's allowed and what's not allowed. And it says crying's allowed, hurting is allowed, all these things are allowed, but quitting is not allowed.
Yep.
So exactly it's like, just keep moving forward, keep the faith. I love that message. It's definitely going to serve some people. So if there's anybody that wants to get a hold of you, we're going to direct them to your social media for your businesses, for, even a chat, be like, hey, listen, I'm in that situation where I'm going down this road. Are you open to taking those DMs and messages?
Yep. Awesome. Man. I absolutely, there's a couple of people I talk to. I love helping people in general, and especially people who feel like they can't get help from other people, or they don't know where to turn for help, or what does help even look like. And that could be a 10-minute conversation. It could be a friendship that lasts forever. Like, I don't know, but I'm certainly happy and able to share my life experiences and insights with anyone who's receptive to it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you, man. I'm blessed to know you. Like, we wouldn't know each other at all if it wasn't for a couple of groups that we're involved in. Mike's Inner Circle. But yeah, I'm glad I got to know you better, man. I'm glad you were out here and shared your story, and it's definitely going to change some lives. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just everybody, again, Matt Rhoda, you're going to see all of his information. I'll get his book up there. I'll get his social media up there, his websites. You'll have all that in the show notes. Again, I'm going to have a lot of stories like this and so on and so forth going forward. So make sure you tune in. I've got a couple lined up that are almost as good as this one, but it just comes down to the goal is to keep inspiring people and showing people that that have a story to really put it out there. And number one, it helps the person who's sharing that story a lot of the times, but it's also going to help somebody who's listening to that story. So again, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to sign off, and we'll see y'all on the next one.